Hello and welcome to Upfront on the Voice of America. My name is Jackson Mvunganyi. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now, March is Women's History Month, and during this period, we honor the contributions made by women to historical events and to modern society. And today, we are honored to host the Queen of the Kingdom of Buganda, Queen Sylvia Nagginda Luswata. In her new autobiography, the Nnaabagereka, Life, Passion, and Duty, the Queen invites readers to witness the intricate threads that weave together her identity, her passions, and sense of duty as a prominent figure in Buganda's cultural and historical tapestry. We'll chat about her book, her work, and some of the women in history that have inspired her journey of service. Queen Nagginda, thank you so much for joining us today. So tell us, before we get into the full conversation about your life and your passions and your duty, what do we learn from this book in a synopsis?
In that book, you learn about my life, how I was born in UK to a single mother, young mother, and left at a very early age, 5 months, grew up with my grandparents and spent my early years in Uganda before I moved to United States at the age of 18. I worked, lived in the US, and later on, after 20 years, not 20, but 18 years in US, I was back in Uganda, and at that time, that's when I became Nnaabagereka,
The Queen
of Buganda.
I always have this question: how were you able to maintain a connection to your roots and culture, having lived here in the West for a long time? It's a question many parents like ourselves with our kids. How do you manage to navigate that?
You see, when I left Uganda, I was quite, I was growing up at 18, and I always wanted to, I came to the US, I said I was going to stay for 5 years and then go back home. I left Uganda, but somehow I really never left because I always knew that I will go back one day. Of course, I didn't go back after 5 years. It was after, 18 years that I returned. But during that time, I did remain in touch with my people in Uganda, but also made a lot of connections during my stay with Ugandans who lived
The local community
in New York and New Jersey. And we did a lot of things together to keep us in touch, with home. We created different associations, and we were always very eager. We came together in social events, and we were always eager to provide assistance back home as well. And once in a while, I did go back home. It's not that all the 18 years I was in the US, I didn't travel back. I did travel back a few times.
Okay, so you maintain that connection by travel, but also with the community here. Uganda has a very strong diaspora community here in the Washington, D.C. area, in Boston, in New York.
Yes.
All right, so share with us your role as the Queen of Buganda and the responsibilities that come with that role.
Right. As the Nnaabagereka, I am the wife of the Kabaka of Buganda, or the King of Buganda, His Majesty Ronald Mwenda Mutebi. He's the 36th King of Buganda. And in addition to being the wife, I established a foundation in 2000. It's the Nnaabagereka Development Foundation. And the purpose of that organization, the mission is to leverage culture, use culture to improve the lives of children, women, and youth in Uganda. Just improve the socioeconomic well-being of children, women, and youth in Uganda. And our areas of focus are health, education, and community development.
What can you tell us about the Kingdom of Buganda?
The Kingdom of Buganda has been around for over 800 years, and it is built on 52 clans, with the Kabaka as the head of the clans, and all of us, the Baganda, are represented through our clans by our clan leaders. Below the Kabaka, you have the chief of the royal clans, and then you have the head of the clans, and the Prime Minister, the Katikiro, the local chiefs, and so on and so forth. So it is that top-down structure. It's very inclusive. We do not have a class system. So everybody is represented, and all the Baganda are, subscribe to the Kabakaship. Yes.
You say it's very inclusive. That means women also have roles of leadership. Is that what it is? Is that what you mean? In terms of inclusivity? In terms of
inclusivity, yes. Women have always had played main roles in within the kingdom. They've always been a pillar within for strength, for support, and for stability within the kingdom as mothers in the home, and also in the workplace. They still do. They've always been, and they still do play that role. Yes.
So how do you balance preserving traditions, your cultural traditions, with the evolving dynamics of this modern day world?
The Nnaabagereka Development Foundation, we have programs, for example, that we've created, and one of them is called the Kisakate cha Nnaabagereka. It is mentorship, training and skills development program for children, and at the moment we cater to children between the ages of 6 and 18 within this program. And one of the main ideas really is to instill them with good culture practices and values. We noticed that now this program has been around for 17 years, but prior to that we had a lot of different initiatives in education and health and community development, and we felt that there was a decline in morals in our society, so we started this particular program. So one of the things really is to instill good cultural values and practices, as well as to encourage spiritual development, which we think is very important, to give that moral compass, and also to encourage, to expose children to different skills, the arts, the development in agriculture skills, and we have different activities actually that do take place. And the whole point is that trying to get the children when they're still young at that age, so that to prepare them for the years ahead. Yes.
So what are some of the things that you teach them in this Ekisakate? What does Ekisakate mean?
Ekisakate means enclosure. It's an enclosure, and traditionally this enclosure or Ekisakate was used by the chiefs to brought together children of the chiefs to teach them or prepare them for their lives ahead as leaders in society, and also women as homemakers. Yes.
So,
but this particular camp is very inclusive. It's still both men and boys and girls, rather.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So March is Women's History Month, like I was introducing earlier. I wanted to get an idea of the people that inspired you on this journey that you're on, or some of the women, maybe 2 or 3 women that you look up to and really inspired your life.
One of the women who inspired me was my grandmother. I grew up with her. And another woman, my mother, who I met later on in life, and she pretty much inspired me, very hardworking, pushed me to work hard. And yes, those are the 2 women that I, and then up and above that, of course, there are other women that I look up to in different ways. But
you say you met your mother later on in life. What is the story there? I'm sure you go into it in detail in the book, but give us a little bit of
the story is in my book. I won't spoil it for you, but yes, I was born in UK, but lived there for 5 months. My parents were still going to school, so I grew up with my grandparents in Uganda. So basically I left, they stayed in UK to study. It was a single mother. My mom was a single mother, and my father was also studying elsewhere in UK. So stayed with them and grew up with them, and I did refer to them as my parents, my mother and father, and my uncles and aunts were my siblings pretty much. And so throughout my primary and secondary school, I met my father actually before I joined secondary school, and my mother also a few years later. But she was still in. My father had come back to Uganda to live, but my mother stayed in UK and later on moved to the United States.
That's when
where
you
she
moved
still
here.
lives.
She's still here.
Yeah, she's still here. And but I went to join her when I was 18 after my secondary school. Yes.
You did college here in the US?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Which school did you go to?
I went to City University of New York in LaGuardia, and then New York University, and I did my master's at the New York Institute of Technology.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's interesting. So let's talk about, Buganda has a rich cultural history. How do you ensure that you're passing down the cultural values and traditions to younger generations, especially in this age of social media, of globalization?
How do you ensure that? Well, it's quite difficult because, as you know, before parents were parents and children would listen to them, but these days parenting is really done by not just the parents. The parents would tell them one thing and they'll switch on their iPads and then they'll hear something else, and iPhones they hear something else. But I think we need to continue to be persistent, to talk to them to talk to the children, and also to continue with such programs like the one I told you, which is Itsakate, to instill values, to make sure that children can be discerning in the sense that yes, you can pick up the modern, but we have our traditions that are also very important and crucial, and that they should hold on to. Again, I always emphasize good culture practices because we all know that there are bad culture practices, not just in Africa, but also elsewhere. Yes.
So pick up the good things from your culture and maintain it.
Exactly. Yeah. Do not pick up everything that you see or hear.
Why is it important to maintain culture? Why, again, if I was giving the pitch to a young, my daughter born here in the US, how do I make that pitch to them? Like, your culture is very important to you. Why is culture important?
It gives us a sense of belonging, sense of identity, history, where you're from. And I think that's quite important because today you have people really who even in their old age are still wondering, where did I come from? Where am I from? But it's important because as they say, it's good to know where you came from if you want
to know where you're going.
Exactly, right. If you want to know where you're going. Yes.
Absolutely, I love that. So what legacy do you hope to leave as the Queen of Buganda, and how do you envision the kingdom's role in the broader context of Uganda's future?
Well, the kind of legacy I hope I could be remembered that I cared and I tried, and I'm still trying to support people, to support children, to support women in improving their lives, especially when it comes to education, whether it's to support financially or materially or through the foundation, for example, we have built some and refurbished some structures. So I do advocate for quality education. In health too, we've made a number of achievements. So really to be remembered for, that at least I cared and I tried to contribute to the improvement of the lives of our people. Yes, Buganda still has always played a big role in Uganda's development, and currently there are a number of different development programs that the kingdom is focused on, and given that the central region, which is Buganda, is it is, I call it, a melting pot where you have all the different ethnic groups from Uganda. They all live, so they all benefit from the different health programs, for the different education programs. Buganda itself has schools that it has built, and therefore it's quite instrumental in the whole development of the whole country.
Because everybody benefits.
Everyone benefits.
I have to say that when I said the Queen of Buganda was coming here, people were thinking the Queen of Uganda. I was like, no, it's Buganda, it's the kingdom. I think it's the biggest kingdom actually in East Africa.
Yes.
Okay. I guess I wanted to end off by thanking you for coming here today to tell us about your book, Life, Passion, Duty, the Nnaabagereka is the book. If we can zoom in a little bit right here. I can't wait to dig into it.
Thank you.
I'm sure there's a lot of anecdotal stories. I wanted to finally ask you, when you became the queen, what was that learning curve of coming from being a regular person here in Washington D.C. in the U.S. moving back home? What were some of the things you had to learn to embrace your role?
Well, first I have to admit that I did not think much about how, that it was huge. I knew it was a very important position, but how huge and how challenging it might be, I didn't really think so much about it. But yes, you do have these expectations from people. I think that's the biggest thing, that you don't really, but they expect you to be so many things and to be able to do so many, to help so many. So there are those very high expectations, but I think what really helps out a lot is that the goodwill that people have and the love that people show and the support that comes along with that. Yes.
Do you ever miss being a regular person? I can imagine.
I am
right now. You move with a big entourage, the security. You're the queen of the whole kingdom. Do you ever miss just being a regular, Sylvia Nagginda before the queen?
I really do consider myself quite regular. Besides the security, moving around, I'm still so much Sylvia in so many ways. Yes,
including some of the passions that we'll read about in the book.
Yes.
Queen Sylvia, thank you so much for coming to visit us today. We really appreciate you. We can't wait to read the book.
Thank you so much, Jackson.